Hi, my name is Claire Elgar, and I'm going to be tracing the blood flow through the heart while explaining cardiovascular terminology and its function. Blood becomes oxygenated in the lungs and deoxygenated as it travels through the body and distributes blood into the tissues. So we are going to look at this diagram of the heart. Okay, so first we have deoxygenated blood entering from the body into the heart through both the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. This blood gathers into the right atrium. The right atrium fills with blood and then is pushed through the tricuspid valve. The tricuspid valve then leads to the right ventricle, and blood gathers in the right ventricle. When the right ventricle becomes full of deoxygenated blood, it will then contract and squeeze this blood up through the first semilunar valve, which is known as the pulmonary valve. The pulmonary valve will then lead all the way up into the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery goes into both the right and the left side of the lungs. As we can see here, arteries go away from the heart, so let's take a further look at arteries. So, arteries are the biggest form, and then if you go into a smaller vessel, they are known as arterioles, and then even smaller, we have capillaries. Capillaries exchange oxygen and nutrients as blood passes into tissues. Then we'll take a look as the blood goes from the pulmonary arteries into the lungs on both sides. You'll see that there's pulmonary veins located on both the left and the right side, and these pulmonary veins bring blood to the heart. This blood will have become oxygenated in the lungs, and we will now be looking at oxygenated blood. As you can see here, veins bring blood toward the heart, so let's take a further look at those now. So veins also start off at the smallest form, capillaries, where they can exchange oxygen and nutrients. And then there's a smaller form of a vein, which is a venule, and that is just a smaller vessel than a vein. The blood from the pulmonary veins gathers into the left atrium of the heart now, and then from the left atrium of the heart will go through the bicuspid valve. This is also known as the mitral valve. It'll pass through here and go into the left ventricle. Similar to what we saw in the right ventricle, when the left ventricle becomes full, it will contract and squeeze that blood and open the aortic valve, which is that second semilunar valve. The blood will then go through the aortic valve all the way up to this big part of the aorta, and then the aorta will disperse the blood to the rest of the tissues of the body, and the blood will become deoxygenated again as it's used in tissues, and then we'll come all the way back to the beginning of the process where deoxygenated blood comes into the heart through the superior vena cava and inferior vena